Greetings, MRT family. How's everyone doing today? I hope that you're doing well. It's Monday. Time to turn the chapter. Time to reset. Reset everything. If you had a funky week last week and you just were unhappy to end the week and you woke up to see another Monday, you got another chance to make things right. Now, here's the part that I'm going to say that's different from most motivational speakers. Some people would just say, hey, just turn the chapter, turn the page, it's a new day, it's a new week, whatever. I mean, some people consider the new week as Sunday, but you get what I mean. The majority of the world's new week starts with Monday just because of the fact that Monday is when the world gets moving again. Monday is when the stores are open at their regular time. Monday is when a lot of people go to work and start their work week. Not everybody, but a lot of people. Here's what I'll say that's different than what other people would say. Some things that happen to you are so big that a new day, a new week, a new month, a new year even are not going to change those things. Patricity. And I always say, I'm not negative. I'm just realistic. Because not all things are created equal. Like if it's a case of, all right, I was driving around, I caught a flat tire, and I had to shell out some money, or I had to put some money on my credit card. I had to spend some money on my credit card for a tow, or like a tow truck, or something like that. That's kind of a first world problem to a degree, because it's like, all right, I had the credit card available for me to pay for the tow, and then maybe I had to put on like a dummy tire onto the car, and then it's gonna take away from my ability to spend the money on that outfit that I wanted, or there was a concert coming up and I would have had the money to pay for that, but because of this thing that happened with my car, I can't go to that concert. That's one of those turn the chapter type of things. It's a big deal, but it's not a big deal, because in a couple of weeks or however long it takes, you're going to be able to gain that money again, and then you can pay that credit card off or replenish that money that you took out of your bank account, and you move on. But if it's a bigger thing, like let's say you had a misstep on the stairs or something like that, you fell and then you broke your leg, and your leg now has to get surgery. That's not something where you just turn the chapter to the new week or the new month or year and then your leg is better again. It's something that puts you out of commission for a significant amount of time, and it's something that requires patience, and it requires some suffering, quite frankly, before you're actually going to be able to get back to a point where you can walk again and you can move again regularly. And honestly, what's going to happen during that time period where you can't walk is you are going to think about every one of those steps that you have ever taken in your life. What could I have done differently? This is a metaphor if you haven't been picking this up. Let's see what these comments are saying. Everybody, the majority of the new people that pop on here from the algorithm are from India. So welcome to everyone who is from India. But as I was continuing with what I was saying, because I was dropping some bars, you're gonna think about every single one of those steps that you have taken. I gotta start writing down these things that I come up with when I go on these lives, because I feel my next talk is gonna be about this exact thing. As you can't walk, there's several things that you would think about. You'll think about how you might not have been grateful enough for the time that you could, because it's something that you don't think about. You're not like, hey, my ability to walk is something that is special and I should be grateful for every day. You're thinking about all your near misses where you were walking up and down those steps carelessly and you slipped, but then you caught yourself in an appropriate amount of time and you didn't get injured and you didn't think anything of it because you felt like, be like, is my leg ever going to return to normal? Am I ever going to be able to walk and move around normally again? Because you get into these ruts, especially with something that requires long-term recovery. When it's something that requires a long-term recovery, you think about those things. And I bones in my right and left foot before, and I've gone through this, albeit when I was much younger, so I probably didn't go through as much of this thought process. But I've had also some injuries in recent years. My back, my kneecap popping out, my shoulder. I had a really bad shoulder injury that's still not 100%. And you think about those things. So in those type of cases, I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, you turn the page and it's a blank page, right? More so, I would say to that person who has something bigger or more difficult than your average daily struggle, turning into the new week is just an opportunity to flip around your mindset about what is happening to you. Specifically, taking away the victim's mentality that you might carry around in your life. There's people that I talk to that are always like, Mark, you don't understand my life. This, and this, and this, and that has happened to me, and it wasn't fair. Well, I'm not going to dispute what is fair and what is not fair, because there's a lot of things that have happened in my life that I don't consider fair. Here's the thing about the things that I don't consider fair. If I went around and told everybody about all the circumstances of my life from about probably age, I don't know, maybe even from birth until now, they would be like, wow, that's not really fair. What does them telling me or acknowledging that many circumstances in my life have not been fair do for me exactly? Does it change the circumstances? Does it make life better for me? The validation, right? This is something that I spent a lot of time talking about, both in therapy and also with my life coach that I worked with. The validation. It would be nice for people to just unanimously acknowledge, hey, you were not given the best set of cards to play with, right? But even if they do give you that acknowledgement, what does that do for your situation of, right now, today? If you gave me an award, man, you had the hardest life circumstances. I'm not saying that I did, but I'm just saying, if someone who had an extremely hard set of life circumstances where variables were placed into their life that were not fair, if everybody got together, if the whole town that they live in got together and held a ceremony for them and gave them a plaque and said, you had the hardest life in this whole town, what exactly would that do for them? It would probably make them feel good in the moment. Hey, people are recognizing that my life is hard and that I've had to dig myself out of some holes that I didn't create. And then after the ceremony is over, what happens next? That's my question. From there, do you hop in the time machine and you get to go back and change those variables that made your life difficult. Do those same people who celebrated you decide to do a bunch of things for you that make your life easier? Likely not, and probably not. So it's not necessarily even beneficial to you, aside from a little bit mentally. I remember this book that I was reading, although I can't remember the name of the book because I read it years ago. And this might resonate a little bit with you, Churicity, if you're still there. They told like a story about two people who had to drive to work in Los Angeles traffic. I've only been to Los Angeles once, and I'll tell y'all, I rented a car and they duped me for multiple reasons. I got the prepaid gas. I think they might have even got me to buy like a toll pass or something like that, whatever they're called over there. And I barely was able to even move the car. I had rented the car for like 3 to 4 days, paid some incredible amount of money for that car, and I think that I tried driving around and maneuvering around for maybe 2 days, and no lie, this paid for car that I paid all my money for, I left it parked for the next 2 days because I was so sick of trying to drive around in LA because the traffic, NYC traffic, was bad. LA traffic way crazier than NYC traffic. I say that to say, there was a story about two people who had to go to work in LA traffic, and I want to say the numbers don't really matter. Let's just say, for the purposes of this story, it took each of them 2 hours sitting in this traffic to navigate like 10 miles to get themselves to work. So they were each in that 2-hour traffic. So the one person would get up and complain every single day. Oh man, time is money. You know, like I can't stand the fact that I have to spend 2 hours of my time in this traffic. I'm wasting my gas. Like it basically adds 4 hours onto my work day, 2 hours to go there, 2 hours to go back. And then there was a second person who also was going to work, who also spent that same 2 hours in the car, 2 hours going and 2 hours coming. And then they asked that same person, like, what do you think about that extra time that you have to spend in that LA traffic going and coming from work in the morning? And then it was something to the effect of, you know, I like the opportunity. I throw on an audiobook and I'm able to listen to X amount of chapters. It gives me some time to learn. It gives me some alone time before I have to go in and interact with my coworkers, etc. There's like a saying that says, somebody took the same circumstances that you're complaining about and won with them. Honestly, as a human race, as human beings, there's nothing new under the sun. Yes, we get our own unique combination of things that happen to us. As in, we don't all have the same concoction of hardships. One person has this, and this. Another person has this, and this, and this. And it's not all going to happen in the same time, the same time frame. It's not all going to happen in the exact same way. But a lot of things that happen to us have happened to other people in some way, shape, or form. And life is, I don't know what the formula is, but I'll say the one that I hear the most commonly, 20% what happens to you and 80% how you respond. Life is about our ability to make adjustments and to bounce back from things that happen to us, from circumstances that happen to us. I'm not sure, I'd say a little bit mentally, validation and acknowledgement. It is big in terms of feeling a mental relief, but let's say you're in my type of circumstance where you have a horrible experience at work, and then you go tell somebody, hey, this is what I experienced, and like, I'm traumatized, I'm mentally drained by this, and then the person tells you, I'm so sorry that that's what you've been going through, or that's what you went. Like, nobody should have to experience that, and it's hard. I acknowledge that this is a hard thing, and you're a strong person for being able to withstand what happened to you. Yeah, mentally that feels great, and I've heard things like that recently. Mentally, yes, that does feel great. What it doesn't do is it doesn't change the trauma. The way that I've had to get through the trauma is to seek counseling for it. The way that I've had to get through the trauma is to get up every day and say to myself, there's no other way out but through. I've had to get up and be like, 1,000 people can feel sorry for me about my circumstances, but only one person can get me out of them, and that is myself. Not to say that nobody has been assisting me, but what I'm saying is nobody comes to my house and says, Mark, this is what it takes to fix your circumstances, and I'm going to take you around for the day and get you to all the places that you need to go and figure out all those things for you. I had to get up and I had to be like, this is what I need in order for myself to get better. I need to reach out to this person. I need to figure out this out from a financial standpoint. I've got to just get out there in ways that currently make me feel uncomfortable. Believe it or not, well, it's for those who have known my story that I put on my membership page, getting in this car again was a hard thing because of bad experiences that I had in this car. And to even get back in here and be in this car was, I didn't want to do that for a while. And I didn't do it for a while because I couldn't. But I also knew that there was a time in my life where I couldn't drive at all just because of the anxiety portion of my life. And I was like, the longer that I stay out of here is the harder it's going to be for me to get back in. And I don't ever want to be in that physical space or mental space again. You of course have to continue to move on and keep looking forward. And the thing is, the other thing about what I'm saying is, the validation is not a guarantee. Some people have amazing people in their life that are going to listen to their experiences and are going to provide emotional support. And kudos to those people. And some people don't. And then what do? It's funny, I was thinking about this show that I watched years ago. mom swap, excuse me. They had like a mom swap show. And it was a show where one mom would go to the other house and this mom would go to the other house. So I remember this one episode of the show. One of the moms, she seemed like she was a good mom, but she reminded me of like Roseanne Barr. I don't know much about, Roseanne Barr personally, but like Roseanne Barr as in her TV character on her show, Roseanne. She reminded me of that type of mom. Like, she loved her kids, but she was sarcastic. They would get up in the morning. All she's doing is getting them up, making sure that they get up and get ready for school, send them off. They had this other mom. Hi, Mom. They had this other mom who wrote on these note cards these positive affirmations. And I remember they would get up in the morning. They just wanted to eat their breakfast and go about their way. And that mom that did the positive affirmations, she would make them read these note cards. She made the other family's kids read these note cards. I'm strong, I'm brave, I'm beautiful, I'm handsome, I'm intelligent, I'm this and that, like whatever positive affirmations that it was. And I remember the first couple of days, the kids were doing that sarcastically. And they were just like, I'm strong, I'm brave, I'm intelligent. And they were like, this is so stupid. When they were doing the confessional interviews, they were like, this is so stupid. I don't know why this weird lady is making us do this. And then I remember like a couple days down the line, the kids were like, I didn't like this before, but it actually makes me feel good in the morning to get up and say those things about myself. And then the other set of kids were like, gosh, this mom doesn't really affirm us, like we just get up and then she does the basics as a mom, or the bare minimum as a mom, not really realizing. My point of saying that is those second set of kids did not really realize that what their mom was doing is not a common thing that most parents even do. It's like your parent was different. Like if I was to be able to dive into that lady's life and look into her history, my best guess might be that she didn't receive those things when she was growing up. So she went the extra mile to be like, I'm going to make sure that my kids know that they're special and that nobody has to provide them with that validation from the outside. But the majority of us, and don't say that I'm saying all, because I never say all for anything, but I think that the majority of us, our parents or whoever raises us, shows us love more so by actions, especially from certain generations. They show us love more so by actions than by words. Also, that's one trauma, right? So I don't typically share. Got a signal cord injury. Oh, a spinal cord injury. I'm sorry. That changed my world, of course. Oh yeah, I'm sure it does. The thing that I'm going to say about all of my examples are that I can't give one example that covers everything. My examples, just like when I'm doing my public speaking gigs, I tell everybody that my examples are in a sense plug and play. And what I mean by that is I give examples based on mostly my experiences because I see the world through my lens. So there's nothing that I can say that covers everyone's experience. So in this particular case, what I'm talking about is actually a work related experience. So it's not necessarily comparable, even though you can take some elements of it and apply it to that. But yeah, I'm sorry for that. I'm sorry for that experience that you had. But I can say where I can relate to you a little bit. Where I can relate to what you're saying a little bit. Well, in two ways. When I got my mental health diagnosis, it's not the same as a physical diagnosis at all, but my mental health diagnosis is something that I can still remember vividly going into this first, I think she was a nurse practitioner. I remember going into her office begrudgingly and asking her, what can I do? Or not what can I do, but how long do I have to see you before I'm cured? She says to me, there is no cure. The cure, or not the cure, but the solution is that you come and see me in my office 3 days a week, and through medication management and cognitive behavioral therapy, you can learn to manage your symptoms. That was one thing. And I was like, what? So this thing that I never had in my life and just came about really all of a sudden for me is now something that is incurable, and I can manage my symptoms if I spend 3 hours a week with you and take medications. That was a depressing thing to hear. That was one thing, right? And I can still remember when I went to the hospital for my mental health symptoms. And I can remember in that particular case that I had this doctor. Her name was Dr. Ray, in this hospital that I went to. I had gone around to so many medical professionals that were not in the mental health field, but were like MDs, or even psychiatrists, nurse practitioners, whatever the case may be, that had invalidated my symptoms. I, in fact, had gone to the hospital at one point over 30 times in 1 year for mental health symptoms. And I still remember like the very last time that I went to this hospital, or to the hospital, because it wasn't the same hospital every time, for these mental health symptoms. And I remember this Hispanic nurse being like, we've already checked your chest x-ray, we did an echocardiogram, we did this test, and we did that test, and we did this test, and everything has come out negative. So man up, Poppy. And I remember feeling so terrible. Matter of fact, it made my symptoms worse to hear that, because I'm going to medical professionals who are supposed to be at the very least trying to help me. And I felt embarrassed to even go back, so I didn't. And that's when my agoraphobia started to get worse, and that's when I stopped leaving my house and all of that, because of what I experienced in that hospital. So when I went and I met that other doctor that I'm telling you, Dr. Ray, when I was hospitalized, Dr. Ray asked me to write down all the symptoms that I was experiencing. And then I was like, I wrote them down. And then she had this book. I forgot what the book was called. but it was a book that chronicled anxiety disorders and the potential symptoms from those disorders. And she was like, do me a favor and open up the book to whatever page it was. And I opened up the book, and I saw everything that I had listed on. She was like, look at your paper and look at the book. I saw everything that I had listed as potential symptoms that I was experiencing over the last year in that book, right? And she was like, you've been to the hospital X amount of times. They did test this, and this, and this, and this. So you can rule out this large number of things based on all the tests that you had done. But she said the symptoms that you're feeling are actually real because of the mind-body connection that we have. So she gave me a whole explanation about how there's a fear loop that can basically cause the panic attacks, and then the acid reflux that I was feeling being based upon not eating enough, and my body, the stomach acid in my body was kind of just churning around, and it had nowhere to go, and it didn't have enough in it to burn up. And then the explanations for my weight loss, the migraines, I haven't even close to going in depth of what my life was like during this time. My life was a life that I did not want to be alive. And I don't want to sound morbid. I didn't have some suicidal plan, but I really went to bed every night and said, if I wake up, please don't wake me up, because I don't want to live like this. So having that particular doctor tell me your symptoms are valid, your feelings are valid, and to tell me like there's a way for you to get out of what you're experiencing right now. She didn't say it in a sense of you're going to be cured, but she said it in a sense of there's many people that have had your experiences that have gone on to live full lives. They can be CEOs of companies, they can be professional athletes, they can be doctors, they can be mental health counselors, they can be anything that they want to be. You just gain an understanding of what your symptoms are, what your trigger points are. Basically, I'm saying all this to say that what she said to me injected hope into my life, and that made a night and day difference. On the other hand, the point that I was making earlier was more of a situational example. I guess they're both situational examples in a way, but they're very, very different ones. Because one is actually something that was causing me a combination of physical and mental trauma, and the other one was more of a mental trauma than a physical trauma, which I have learned can be two very different things. That's not morbid, it's honest. Yeah, and actually, I appreciate that. And actually, that's the reason why I ended up in the mental health field to begin with, because I always tell you guys, I went to school for business, and I never had any kind of intention of becoming somebody's counselor. I was not a good listener. I'm not going to say I wasn't a good listener. I'll say I wasn't an empathetic listener growing up. I would listen to you, but I was kind of like, okay, you're bringing me this problem, so let's just get to the solution. You're wasting my time. That's how I felt. I don't think that the people who spoke to me thought I was thinking that in my head, because that's not what I was telling them, but that's what I was thinking to myself. Okay, I've heard about your problem enough. Let's get to the solutions, or let's stop talking about it. So yeah, that was a long way of saying I certainly agree that validation can do a lot for you, because in that particular case, I think the validation saved my life, literally. That point in time, my mom could tell you, I was about 110 pounds, right? I weighed about 110 pounds. I was eating about 200 calories a day. That was because she was forcing me to do so. She would bring me like a bowl of oatmeal and like a yogurt, and I would take like a couple of bites out of the oatmeal, and then I would have I'd probably eat the yogurt, and then I'm done for the day. Like, I'm not eating anything else. Then my stomach is churning and burning me up all day, and then I'm in my bed crying, and I have migraines, probably because I wasn't eating enough also, and I was so stressed, and it was a prolonged period of time, and I was very weak. It was the validation that I got really saved me. But there's